What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me today. My name is Blake, and I have a EDH Deck Tech channel. And today we're going to be presenting Ruby, the Daring Tracker. And when I look at all these cards, they just look beautiful, right? These are just Gruul cards. So what is Gruul, you say? Well, for my new friends who are just joining me, basically there's 5 colors of Magic of the Gathering, and there's different color combinations, and those are actually from a set called Ravnica. It's a plane in Magic where various clans are existent, and there's a faction of clans that are they joined to a guild called the Gruul, right? The Gruul Guild, and so that's where we get these symbols. It's basically a mixture of red and green creatures, and basically their existence. And they have an interesting history in the lore. Basically, what had happened is they tamed the wilds. That was their duty, was to basically look over like the wild parts of this plane and make sure that the other inhabitants were kept safe. What ended up happening is that they became obsolete. And what ended up happening is the Orzhov clans ended up basically enslaving this group of people. They were written out of laws, and they were basically forced into like kind of a nomadish society. And they're known for basically going from place to place and reaping the plundering the area and moving on to the next place. So that's kind of like the Gruul kind of nature, right, so to speak. And it's very fitting. Like, I really like how even these newer sets, Ruby the Daring Tracker, like they have this kind of very, relationship to the wilds. And I think they did that very well with this particular card in general, and keeping into that, loyal to that kind of that idea. And let's read the card. So Ruby Daring Tracker, red green, human scout, haste. Whenever Ruby Daring Tracker attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, Ruby gets 2/2 until end of turn. We might be very excited about that +2/+2, when she is attacking. However, initially it's that she has haste and she adds for red or green. So if we're playing like in Commander, we all know the card of Arcane Signet, where basically it's a 2 colorless card that will pay for any of your colors Commander color identity. You can utilize that mana immediately because it doesn't have summoning sickness with an artifact. So this is similar. Usually creatures don't have the ability to tap immediately, but Ruby does. So basically she's like an additional Arcane Signet, or just you could see her as an Arcane Signet that can also attack and do stuff later. So it's just a really amazing card. There's so many very cool cards here to kind of go over, and there's a couple that just really stick out to me, and I'll kind of feature those like first. So there's Ruby, of course, and there's really this card has really impressed me. Like, I feel like if you're playing treasures at all, if you have like any kind of like synergy with making treasures in your deck, and whatever color you're playing with, I think Roxanne is just a fantastic choice. She's good. She has a good intra battlefield trigger where she can like snipe little creatures. She could go face if you want her to. Additionally, any artifact is going to be tapping for an additional mana, so your treasures will start sacrificing for an additional mana. Her meteors can just be tapped when she's on the battlefield for 2. It's just like outrageous. What a fantastic card. And I just fell in love with this card so much. I really enjoyed it. Additionally, like, we just have these kind of cards that have been existent. Like, for instance, a Karlach, where, if we're going to be getting additional combat steps, like, let's go. Like, Roxanne seems to fit in very well with that. This is a very reasonably priced creature. And whenever we attack, if it's the first combat phase of our turn, untap all attacking creatures. They get first strike until end of turn. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So just absolutely insane. Okay, so here's Wolfgar. And this guy actually will double all those attacking triggers. So the ones I just mentioned, like with Roxanne and Karlach, this guy will just double them up. And he also has this ability called Melee. Whenever you attack an opponent, one of your creatures gets a 1/1 counter. And I think, so for instance, if I attack 3 different opponents, Wolfgar would be putting like a counter on himself. And I believe I believe the melee you can also put on other creatures too. I don't think it has to be exclusive to him. So basically they're just doubling up those counters. Very interesting, like +1/+1 slash attacking kind of creature. If anybody all have an experience with this one, please chime in, because I think it's really cool. Really cool card. It really goes well with a card like Jolene, right? Where, if we're gonna be playing treasures, we can create an additional treasure when we do so. And then of course, whenever a player attacks one or more of your opponents, that player creates a treasure token. So we can also be incentivized to just attack any of our opponents, and we basically create 2 treasures off of that because we get that additional one. Then you have this ability to sacrifice 5 treasure, put 5/1/1 counters on drilling. Sure, okay, fine. So just some really interesting, we'll get into some more of the Wolfgar benefits, but you can see with Wolfgar here on the battlefield and Jolene, they're just teaming up, doubling up those treasures. You're basically going to be creating 4 at once instead of 2. So it's just lots of synergy here for the Gruul folk. So we can just get right into the creatures. Of course, we will be able to be playing Bar class in this deck. So, we get access to some really decent, just red-green creatures in general that will benefit from a card like that will reduce their cost to 0. So for instance, a Rada is very good. And you can see this also goes well with Wolfgar. Once again, I got these out in order just to kind of show whenever this attacks me, add double red. This would be very good for an Embercleave, for instance. You can basically cast an Embercleave for free when you're in your attack step. Of course, that mana doesn't last past the attack step, so that's also interesting to know. So, okay. Of course, we have Inti here, and this is another nice legendary that's just been added into the mix. And we can get value off of Inti. We can get our squad a little bit stronger. So it just has that really cool thing. And also our creatures will gain trample with those 1/1 counters as well. So very cool card. I love this. It's not a Gruul legend, but it's just I feel like it just has to be in the deck because Savage Ventmaw is just an amazing card, and it's amazing how it just creates so much mana when it attacks, and it isn't our Gruul colors, so I think it's just very fitting in general. So whenever Savage Ventmaw attacks, add 3 red, 3 green to your mana pool. Until end of your turn, this mana doesn't empty for your mana pool as it steps and phases in. Also, it'd be cool for our Wolfgar. We'll have cards like Last March of the Ents and Riskgar's Expertise, and we're just going to need to spend our mana on stuff. So I feel like that's a really good choice. Here's Kogla. This is another guy, of course, with Wolfgar, you're attacking in and you're doubling up that destroy artifact or enchantment defending player control. It's just a very good, Gruul legend in general. Mono green, of course, in its colors, but I would consider, it's just part of that nice Gruul suite of just really strong creatures that impact the board. Here's Cloth. Hello, Blake. Cloth, I decided I'm going to make many manas for you. Yes, Cloth. So that's what Cloth does. On attack, it creates X mana in combination of how much power we have attacked with. Till end of turn, you don't lose this mana, steps and phases end. So just an amazing amount of mana generation. Gamble. So what are we going to use with Gamble? I think this is such a very good card. It just seems let's get to the cards that we need. Let's take the risk, give ourselves a chance to really accelerate. I feel like there's many choices. Maybe on a turn 1, if we had no mana acceleration, I'd probably say a Bard class is really good. Let's go search up our Bard class, give us a chance to find Bard class. If we end up, discarding Bard class, at least we could probably play Ruby and go from there. No big deal, right? But if we get a Bard class down, we can start sinking into that, and then all our legends will get reduced, and it would just make our lives so much better and so much faster. So I think that'd be a really good turn 2 play, of course. Of course, an interesting card we could also fetch for is a Minsk and Boo. This card is just insanely strong. It can give counters to our creatures. We can also pump up that hamster and then later get value in cards from the hamster, so that's really good, of course. Worldly Tutor, this is a card I feel like it could do so many things. It could maybe find us a Fanatic of Ronos. It could maybe find us one of our bigger creatures. And it can also do some interesting things, for instance with a Doors of Durin. we could play this at instant speed, and if we don't like the hit that we have on the Doors of Durin, we could just slide like a Crater Hoof or, some other card that will impact the board, during our attack step, and we can do stuff from there. So I feel like this works very well with like a card like Doors of Durin, where we attack with anything, we're scrying on the top of our library, revealing a creature, and that creature may come onto the battlefield tapped and attacking immediately. Just a phenomenal card, obviously. Everybody loves this card. Hajar, just some nice like kind of bar class protection in that red and green slot. It's not a bad body too with a 3/3, right? And it has sneaky text too. I love sneaky text where it gives like the 1/0 buff. Sometimes that's kind of sneaky and people don't pay attention to like these little details. I don't, and I've fallen victim to it. So I'm sure other happens to other people too. So even that 1/0 buff, I mean, indestructible people kind of realize, but that 1/0 buff is really interesting, and you might be able to take out some blockers that maybe the opponent didn't expect in the first place. Here's Anzrag. This is a newer Gruul legend where it's just an 8/4 mole. And it can also grant extra combat steps like with that sink in. Or whenever it is blocked in general. So whenever it's blocked, there's an additional combat phase. That's pretty nuts. And then you can also pay 7, and then an Anzrag must be blocked each combat this turn of Fable. How fun is that? So there's that, Anzrag. And getting to those extra combat steps. Xenagos, just what can you say about it? Just a tier 1 card. Just comes on the battlefield and just starts ripping power into stuff and giving haste. It's nasty. Vorinclex, one of those exceptional cards that you just get the Vorinclex down and you get those lands and it can swing. You can then decide, maybe I want to sink into that Saga. Sure. Let's go. And then we're going to mill 10 cards and put 2 of those creatures onto the battlefield immediately from those milled cards. And then do more stuff, get more counters, and then do like a little fight thing on chapter 3. It's just an absolute nuts card. I don't know. I think this card is like maybe $6. It plays more like a $10 card or more, at least. I feel like this is very undervalued. If it is at $6, I feel it's exceptional. This is another one I got into lately. I just love that it gave all our creatures trample. It's amazing. Other creatures control have trample. They all have trample. This has trample, and all our other creatures have trample. And whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Fantastic. Here's Kogla and Yadaro. Just a bad mofo. Just another like enter the battlefield, comes on the battlefield, fights something. Or you can even have it in your hand and just discard it. Cycle it from to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Seems nice. Very nice. Here's the Balefire Dragon, just an ultimate opponent devastator. Just gets in there, gets overhead, does 6 damage at least to all your other creatures that your opponents control. It's basically acting as like that, one-sided board wipe. So this is a phenomenal card, guys. Balefire Dragon, I'd highly consider it for any of your red-green decks. Also very good with like a Doors of Durin. I mean, there's so many times I've been like just calling out to the gods when I swing at the Doors of Durin, please send me a Balefire Dragon right now so I can just decimate this opponent. And sometimes it happens. It's like the most beautiful thing. This thing comes down and you slap in, and the opponent is left with like no creatures basically, unless they were having over 6 power, which is possible, but still will take out a chunk, right? Here's this kind of like easy slot ends, like a Itali, Primal Conqueror, just an insane amount of value. Just, exiling cards from your opponent's libraries and your own, and just, playing those, casting them for free. It's an absurd card, really. Crater Hoof, just a good finisher, of course, just pumping up our squad based on the amount of creatures that you can control. And it also has haste as well, which is nice. Here's Zopondrel. This is a new one for me, and I've tested it out. It's been fantastic. It's devastating. Not only does it double the power of your power and toughness of your creatures during your attacks, but also during your opponent's turn. So you just basically put up a wall of creatures. It's really nasty. It can also grant itself indestructible by sacrificing 2 other creatures. So very interesting card. Of course, we want to stay alive. So Shadow Spear is going to help us do that. Because that's what happens. With Gruul, we're going to be, probably taking a lot of people off, because we're going to be attacking them relentlessly, and they're going to be attacking us back. So it's important for us to put in a card that, you know, gives us a chance with life gain. So Shadow Spear, put on one of our bigger creatures and get some life gain from that. Here's some other kind of choices that I just really like for the Gruul. I love Lizard Blades just to kind of give basically create an Embercleave with this artifact. It's just a very nice option for our Gruul friends. I love Eska's Chariot. It can also help with that Roxanne thing where we can create more meteors with that or more treasures. So I love Eska's Chariot for that interaction, and just to create bodies too and copy our tokens seems very good. Embercleave, just one of those. This is a card that's won championships, especially in the Gruul colors. I believe in I think Martin was his name. He played the Mythic Championship. He played a Gruul list that had Embercleave, and that was a key card. So it's still very good. This card basically can be played on a flash speed, and it is reduced its cost by how many attacking creatures you have. So for instance, I have 4 attacking creatures. This will only cost 2 red. This is equipped to the creature. It gives its 1/1 and double strike and trample. So basically it makes it into a bad mama jamma. You're going to get through with it. Then we have the Skullspore Nexus, because it's just an awesome card that I just love. I've fallen in love with it. It's just so appropriate that it can double the target creature's power. I think that's honestly probably one of my favorite parts about this card. The fact that it can kind of get through board wipes and give us a token as a result based on the power of the creatures that we had on the battlefield is very cool too. But this double the power is really interesting concept, and it only costs 2 in a tap of the Skullspore Nexus, so you can really pump up a creature to some serious power. Here's the Sylvan Library. So obviously it gives us a ton of cards and looks at things, right? Riki, this is basically our value engines, right? So I'm showing you all the value engines. Riki's just going to reward us for playing legendary spells. It's fantastic. I'm going to just draw a bunch of cards. Some of my favorite cards in red and green. I know it's 3 green, and I know it's not always the easiest to cast, but I feel it's just worth a spot because I feel it's just so exceptional. So the Tribute to the World Tree, buffing up all our more little creatures and then rewarding us for playing higher power creatures too. I feel it's just very fantastic. Here's Toski, and Toski is just one of those nice little indestructible squirrels that's going to grant us some card advantage. So when we connect with creatures, we can draw a card. It's great. The One Ring, let's get some cards. This is the way, guys. This is the way. How can you argue with that? Escape to the Wilds, just a very good Gruul card. We get an additional land drop. This card saved me a bunch of times, many times. Riskar's Expertise, just one of those other fantastic green cards that not only reward us for having high power creatures, but give us a ton of cards and then let us have a free cast of a 5-drop. It's really busted. Last March of the End, similarly busted, right? A little more on the high side, but I think we're going to create enough mana here. We have Sylvala. We have, we have ways to get into a Last March. So treasures, we're going to be fine. Last March, we're going to get there. We're going to draw cards based on the amount of power of our creature we have, and then we can put any amount of creatures on the battlefield. What a great Zopondrel card. Pre-combat, we get all these creatures down and doubling up all our stuff and really going ham from there. We have the Great Henge for just another amazing amount of cards. So there's that. And then let's talk about the ramp. So here's our ramp package. So we have Mox Amber, which is, of course, very good with our 2-drop. I've encouraged you to all, even in your 3-drops, I think Mox Amber's 3-drop commanders, I think Mox Amber is pretty appropriate, right? Especially if you're playing other legendaries like maybe Ragavan or, Magda. So a card like Mox Amber is very appropriately priced for Ruby, because she's just a 2-drop, and then when these kind of just coincide simultaneously, and then you have an extra mana on the battlefield very quickly. So we love Mox Amber here. Also, just of course Soul Ring, just for that 2 colors, a nice acceleration. Then we have a nice suite of 1-drop green cards. These are just so crucial to make these decks really go right, and they're so good. Just putting an extra land down, so harder for other colors to do this kind of stuff. But green just has this abundance of these things that lets you accelerate into your mana curve so much faster. So a Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling, Finhorn Elves, all these really nice mana dorks that will just produce mana on their own. They don't need any other conditions. I love Goblin and Narcomancer because it just gives you that reduction on your red and green spells. It's just amazing. It just sticks there. It's a creature. Here's Gwenna. She's just amazing too. She just rewards us for playing creatures, and she'll untap and have you get another chance for more creature casts if you cast a creature with power 5 or greater, and then it gets stronger itself. Selvala, of course, is just that amazing card, guys. I think she goes in like pretty much all my green decks. Seriously, like mostly, I'd say. She just lets you tap for extraordinary amounts of mana. It's just like kind of a goofy card. So here's Ragavan, of course. These are all like our accelerations with treasures. So I have like Ragavan at the 1 spot, Magda at the 2. Also very good. Also completely reduced with Bard class, by the way. Ragavan and Magda. Except Magda will be a 1 colorless actually, but Ragavan completely free with that reduction from Bard class. Professional Facebreaker, just amazing treasure payoff. Just an amazing card. Absolutely phenomenal here. And the fact you can sack those treasures for more gas is just insane. So we'll have a little bit of a treasure package here with Fable, Spiteful Banditry. Just love it. I just love all this. Then you have your Relic of Legends for all your legendaries. Just another phenomenal card here. Sword of Forge and Frontier for just an additional ramp. I was like, well, do we have to play Sky Shroud Claim? It seems my ramp can be based on combat because my commander does combat too. So isn't a Sword of Forge and Frontier like very similar in that way, right? Where I can just cast a sword and then, equip it, It seems like very similar, and I have some double strike synergy here in extra combat, so the sword should be very good. Domri is just some nice acceleration, and it can also fight other creatures as well, and it gives our creatures a buff. Here's Rada. This one will just let us play lands off the top of our deck. And I really like that about her. I feel like that's really overlooked, and I feel that's a very, very good concept that she has, is that she basically lets you keep that land gas off your top of your deck. It really keeps you into the game that way and lets you get into your good stuff. I love it. And then actually for this deck, we can even go ahead and play Nykthos. So I really would encourage I have this alternating between a mono black deck and this one. And I said let's just give Nykthos a try, and it's great acceleration, right? Even in red and green colors, we can get that devotion pretty high for one of them, and we're gonna net mana off of it. So it's really no drawback. Really, really good choice here. And then I just had a variety of lands here that I'm kind of just assembling. I make a lot of Gruul decks, so I have to assemble a lot of Gruul lands and such. But this is the deck. This is totally. This is it. I just basically have to kind of finish up the land base, but this is all the critical components here for our Ruby deck. So it's really a really nice one. There she is. So we'll just do that nice little kind of look at all the really nice stuff here. Just some really good cards in general. So yeah, I really liked it. I really liked playing it on Brawl too, and I feel it'll play very similarly in a tabletop. Very strong. Yeah, very strong. I really feel like she's I say she's a no stress express, because you really can't be stressed out about having an arcane signet in your command zone. It really takes a lot of the stress out of the deck building, because you just know that having a good commander, it kind of gives you that confidence. It kind of frees you up to just kind of let loose and kind of just explore the synergy and see where it goes. And I feel like this is a good start for sure. So what I'll do is I'll just put the list into the description, and I hope you guys enjoy the deck. Consider a like and subscribe if you like it. Maybe one day we'll just have 1,000 subscribers, and I'll see you guys at conventions, and we'll kill it we'll just kill it at the tables. It'll be great. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.